All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. For those of you who are watching live, please feel free to use the chat to ask any questions that might pop up, and also feel free to answer each other in the chat too. As I've shared in the past, I'll keep an eye on it while I'm talking, but if anything is going unanswered and you know the answer, please feel free to jump in. And yeah, let's get started. So hi, everyone. This is Valerie Tamici, one of the campus leads at Matriculate. I am so excited to lead you all on this journey, the March webinar, Full Tuition Scholarships. This is a big topic that really covers a lot of your advising fellow term. We'll be talking about full tuition scholarships all the way through the fall. And we start working on them as early as spring semester and over the course of the summer. So for today, our goals here are that you all will feel comfortable and confident talking about full tuition scholarships and why they are important, how to determine eligibility for full tuition scholarships, and understanding the differences between the four full tuition scholarships. And there are more than four full tuition scholarships, but there are four that we happen to focus on in particular for Matriculate. There are, of course, many, many more scholarships out there, and we hope that this guidance can be applied to a lot of the other scholarships that you will research with your high school fellows. So one thing that I want to start out our conversation with is discussing the difference between full tuition versus full ride. And the difference between full tuition and full ride is that full tuition scholarships only cover tuition costs typically. So this does not include room and board, whereas scholarships that are full ride will cover the full cost of your attendance. That would include room and board, fees, books, travel. And so as you research these scholarships with your high school fellows, be sure to pay attention to what the award actually is and talk to your high school fellows about the differences between them. Especially for scholarships that are full tuition, keeping in mind that there are going to be other costs associated with their attendance at a college, and therefore they should be paying careful attention to what the financial aid policies are at the schools that they'll be applying to. One of the reasons that full tuition scholarships is really important is that it is a really great gateway for the admissions process and getting started and thinking about really the possibility and affordability of colleges. So every high school fellow should review their eligibility for full tuition scholarships. You should spend at least a meeting talking to them about the differences between these scholarships and decide which ones they will apply to. Full tuition scholarships are extremely competitive, but your high school fellows should not be discouraged. And we actually ran some numbers, and in the class of 2019, so last year's group of high school fellows, over 50 were matched via QuestBridge. So that was 15% of our total high school fellow group, which is very high when you think about how competitive QuestBridge is. So we've seen some really amazing results within the students at Matriculate. And so if they are feeling discouraged just by the numbers, it's good to encourage them and that this is a really great opportunity, and it is a life-changing opportunity for many of our high school fellows. So the four scholarships that we focus on at Matriculate are the Gates Scholarship, the Posse Foundation Scholarship, Jack Kent Cooke Foundation Scholarship, and QuestBridge National College Match. So we spend a good amount of time talking about these. We talk about them in our working groups also, and we'll spend some time in the all fellowship meeting going over them in more detail. So don't worry, this isn't the last that you'll hear of these scholarships. But one thing that I want to call out right at the start is that these deadlines come up pretty quick. As you can see, for Gates and QuestBridge, the deadlines are in September, so right when you all get back from summer break. Posse Foundation nominations are due before senior year even starts, and for the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, that deadline is in November. So in order to be ready to submit a lot of these applications, that means that a bulk of the work needs to be done over the summer. And that means that there should be some careful planning beforehand to ensure that your students are prepared. So up first, I'm going to talk in a little more detail about the Gates Scholarship, and I'll just call out at the top here that I'm just doing a bit of a brief overview of each of these scholarships. There's a lot more research that you'll be able to do with your high school fellows to learn about the specifics of each of these scholarships, but I want to call to attention some of the things that make each of these scholarships unique and some things to keep in mind as you introduce them with your students. So the Gates Scholarship is awarded to about 300 student leaders across the country each year. It covers the full cost of attendance, that's a full ride, that is not already covered by other financial aid and the EFC. So you'll see that for a lot of these full tuition or full ride scholarships, where they are including a school's financial aid into the mix there, but that still will cover the expenses for the student. At the bottom here, I included a timeline for the Gates Scholarship, and this was for last year. They haven't yet released what the deadlines for this year will be, but as you can see, the application opens as early as July. So come July, you and your students can start looking through these applications and working on them, and then they're due in September. In order to be eligible for the Gates Scholarship, you must be a high school senior minority student, Pell eligible, and either a citizen, national or permanent resident of the US with a minimum cumulative weighted GPA of 3.3 on a 4.0 scale. So right off the top, you'll want to look through these eligibility requirements with your high school fellows to determine if they are eligible. And if they are, they should consider applying. It's an amazing opportunity. Up next, we have the Posse Foundation. So the Posse Foundation identifies, recruits, and trains students with leadership potential. Posse scholars receive full tuition leadership scholarships from Posse partner colleges and universities. So this is a 4-year full tuition scholarship. It provides mentorship, networking, and community building resources and support. Now, one of the things that makes Posse unique is that students must be nominated. So they need to be nominated by a teacher, administrator, or college access program can nominate the students. And I'll just call out that actually matriculate staff can't nominate students. So you should talk with your high school fellows about connecting with their guidance counselors at their school, or if they have a favorite teacher, to find someone to nominate them in their community. And the Posse Scholarship is open to students of all backgrounds. Posse places students in groups or posses of 10 students from their home city to prepare for college together before arriving on campus. So one of the really cool things about Posse is that it really just creates a built-in community before students even arrive to college. So Posse has both partner cities and partner colleges. There are 10 partner cities across the US. So even though Posse is open to students of all backgrounds, they do need to be from one of these partner cities. So that will be the first kind of point for eligibility there. And then it awards scholarships to about 57 partner colleges and universities. And I shared some of the partner schools over on the side here. So you can see that there's a wide range of schools. There are selective schools, there are schools all over the country. And so hopefully there'll be some overlap between the schools already on your high school fellows list and the schools that they're considering, and some of the partner universities and colleges. So up next, we have the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation. This is a 4-year full ride, up to $40,000 scholarship to high-achieving, low-income high school seniors and provides personal college advising. And so that's been a theme that we've been seeing across these scholarships too, that for many of these scholarships, they are not just a financial award, but they also provide counseling and support to students who are awarded them. For 2018, the application opened in September. It will likely be very similar this year as well, and they will likely announce those dates pretty soon. And that application was due in November. So this is another one that, even though the application opens in September, you will want to start thinking about it with your high school fellows earlier, because there will be pieces that they need to prepare. They can start working on essays in advance and just getting organized. In order to be eligible for the Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship, you must be a senior preparing to enroll the next fall in college. Your GPA needs to be 3.5 or above, and you must receive a minimum SAT total of 1200 or ACT composite of 26. And then finally, for the Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship, your family must demonstrate unmet financial need. So they will consider applicants with family income up to $95,000. Last year's cohort of scholarship recipients had a median family income of about $26,000. So this is for high achieving low income students, just like our high school fellows. So then finally, I want to talk a bit about QuestBridge. QuestBridge is a full ride scholarship to high achieving low income students where finalists can rank schools of their choosing. And I talked a little bit about QuestBridge last month in the webinar as a great way to start to familiarize yourself with schools across the country who have made a commitment to supporting low-income students. And here you can see the group of college partners again here. Eligibility requirements for QuestBridge, you must be a U.S. citizen and permanent resident, or students who are currently attending a high school in the United States. So either one of those. And then finalists typically come from households earning income of $65,000 or less for a family of 4. But I'll also just mention that it's not a strict cutoff, and so any student who feels that they have faced significant financial hardship may qualify. So if your student is right on the cusp of that, or if they're unsure, it's definitely encouraged to do a little bit more research, look into it a little bit further. And so this is a very broad overview of QuestBridge. And one of the reasons why I'm not going into too much detail right off the top here is because we have a special guest joining us today. Jamie from Williams College she's really the QuestBridge expert at Matriculate. She's one of the head advising fellows at Williams and has helped us with a lot of our resources that we provide for students. For advising fellows, and she has been generous enough with her time to speak with you all today on the webinar. So Jamie, if you want to jump in and introduce yourself, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. If you guys can hear me, would someone just post in the chat? Okay, great. So hi everybody, my name is Jamie. Like Val said, I'm one of the head advising fellows at Williams, and I was a QuestBridge scholar. So I'm really excited to talk to you all about what the QuestBridge process can be like for high schoolers and some concrete ways that y'all are going to be really, really helpful for your HSFs moving forward. So as Val mentioned earlier, the application for QuestBridge opens this summer and it's due in September, so it's a pretty quick turnaround. And no matter what, your students are going to be starting their college processes and applications really early because of it. So QuestBridge basically has 2 main tracks. There's something called the National College Match, which was mentioned earlier, which is when if you are a QuestBridge finalist, so you apply this summer and you get accepted, you can go on to potentially receive a full ride to one of the QuestBridge partner schools. There's another track that students can take, which is the QuestBridge regular decision process, and they can also do both of these. So I'll talk about them both a bit more in detail, but what I want to really stress right off the bat is that QuestBridge is an alternative applications process. So what that means is when your students are filling out their QuestBridge application this summer, doing all of the essay writing, doing all of the short answers, doing all of the test taking and uploading their test scores, all of those exact materials are actually what gets forwarded to the partner schools that they're applying to. So really this summer when your students are applying to QuestBridge, they're also applying to college. So that's a big deal. But this is all to say that QuestBridge is a great opportunity and to just take it really seriously this summer when your students start working on it. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the process for potentially receiving a 4-year full ride is called the National College Match. How this works is students can rank schools, up to 12 of them, in order of preference. So let's say I'm really interested in Wesleyan, Swarthmore, and Williams in that order. then I could submit a ranked list number 1, 2, and 3 with Wesleyan, Swarthmore, Williams. What QuestBridge will then do is, if you get accepted as a finalist, they'll go to the first school on your list and ask them, will you admit this student for a full ride? If school number 1 says no, that doesn't mean that you got rejected from that school and you can never apply again, but it means that they're not going to give you the QuestBridge full ride. So then the folks at QuestBridge approach school number 2 and ask them if they'll give you a full ride, and so on and so forth. If any of the schools that you rank says yes, they will admit you for that 4-year full ride, then you have to go. It's as if you had applied early decision. There are some exceptions. Some schools won't actually hold you to that contract, but we'll talk about that another day. If your student is nervous about making what's basically an early decision commitment in the summer, that's okay. There's also a non-binding process called QuestBridge Regular Decision, and this really works on the same regular decision timeline as you would see for the Common App, for example. This is a really good opportunity too, because although it doesn't necessarily guarantee the 4-year full ride, all of the schools that are partners with QuestBridge generally do give really good financial aid. And also, by using this process, you don't have to spend any money on application fees, which is a huge deal. It can mean saving hundreds of dollars early on for your students. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So in my experience as a high schooler, I learned about QuestBridge through an email. I didn't really know anybody who had ever heard of it. It was really confusing. So while it was a great experience for me, I think that your HSFs are all really lucky to have you to help them figure out this process and take advantage of the opportunity moving forward. I think one big way that AFs can be really helpful to their HSFs is just acting as another pair of eyes to help them figure out what the application process is. If you go on the QuestBridge website, you'll see that there are multiple due dates for different stages of the application process, and it really helps to have someone kind of bring an organizational sense to that and make sure that your HSFs are on track. The second thing is helping your students with college fit is going to be huge. So in my experience with QuestBridge, as a confused high schooler who didn't know where I wanted to go, I didn't really do any good college fit research, and I actually entered the National College Match and only ranked 1 school. It was a school I really knew nothing about, but thought for some reason that it was a great fit for me. So I kind of underutilized the opportunity of the National College Match. I think all of you will be able to help your HSFs a lot by encouraging them to do college fit research early on so that they can get a good idea of what all the partner colleges are like, which ones they might be interested in, and start to get a sense of if they would be comfortable basically submitting a binding application to those schools in the summer before their senior year. The third thing is, like I said before, there are a lot of stages to the process. There are at least 2 essays to write. There are multiple short answer responses they'll have to fill out, and they'll have to send some test scores. What that means is your HSFs are going to need to budget their time and plan ahead. So this is a huge place where you all can step in and again bring that organizational sense to help them do the application successfully. And on that same note, all of that writing that they're going to have to submit is going to need to be workshopped. They're going to need a lot of constructive feedback and a lot of encouragement from you. So that's another probably large time sink where you all are going to be working on QuestBridge with your students. And the last thing that I would say is the QuestBridge process can be really long. It can be really challenging. In my experience, I didn't end up matching to the 1 school that I ranked that I knew nothing about, which maybe was a blessing in disguise, but I felt really discouraged in that moment. But then I went on to take advantage of QuestBridge Regular Decision. I ended up visiting Williams. I got in through QuestBridge Regular Decision to Williams, and I got a great financial aid package. So in the end, I would say things worked out pretty well for me, but it'll be really important to kind of remind students that things can end up well still, even if they don't get a match, because most people don't get matched, and to not only encourage them to keep seeking opportunities like QuestBridge even when it gets hard, but also to take time to applaud the amazing work that they're doing. They're showing a lot of maturity by basically applying to college many months earlier than their peers might be, and going through all of this work and figuring out how this works and trying to seek out the best opportunities for themselves. So I think all of that can be honored, and it can do a lot to empower your students. So yeah, these are just some of the ways that I think that AFs can really step in and be there for their HSFs in the QuestBridge process. But it really is a great opportunity, and I'm excited for you all to go through the process with your students too. So yeah, that's everything.
Thanks so much, Jamie. We're so excited to have Jamie jump on the webinar, and we're also hoping that there can be many more opportunities for advising fellows to jump in and share their expertise. We're very fortunate that among all of you, we have advising fellows with so many different areas of expertise in different parts of the college process, just through your own experiences. So we really encourage you to take up opportunities to share out with your cohort your experiences. If you apply to any of these full tuition scholarships, you can be a really helpful resource to the rest of your cohort. And we're just really excited for this moment in the college process. As Jamie said, this is really the beginning of the college application for students who apply to QuestBridge. This is the start of their application, and it should be taken very seriously, especially since it is just such an amazing opportunity. So like I said, we're going to be talking a lot more about these scholarships in the working groups and in our all fellowship meetings. So if you have any questions about them, definitely keep this conversation going. Bring those questions to the table. If you are very familiar with these scholarships, also bring your expertise to the table and kind of answer those questions as you can and support one another through this process. Because I know for a lot of you, this is all pretty new. So keep in mind also that we have in the curriculum guidance for each of these scholarships, along with links to finding more resources, finding the applications, and all sorts of tools to help you in your conversations with your high school fellows. So that's it for now. We will be sending out the webinar assessment right after this, and it is due by March 20th. I always say sooner the better though. So for those of you who are watching live, I'll send the link out in the chat box. And I'll just call out also for this month, the webinar assessment looks a little bit different because we're including some monthly report questions. So essentially a survey for us to get a little bit of a sense of how you're all feeling so far. I know many of you were just paired with your first high school fellows. We're very excited about that. And we're eager to hear how things are going so far. For those of you who haven't yet been paired with a high school fellow, keep an eye out. That email is likely coming to you next. So once you receive that email pairing you with your high school fellow, be sure to reach out to them right away, check in with them to start scheduling their first meeting. And then keep us in the loop. So we have this text hotline. You can just text the phrase matriculate to this number and send us an update so that we know everything's going okay, or we can jump in if you need support on anything. And then as a reminder, you know this already, but schedule your first meeting with your high school fellow within 1 week, complete your first meeting within 14 days, and submit a session summary after that meeting. So thank you all so much for watching this webinar. If you have any follow-up questions, definitely be in touch. And like I said, we'll continue this conversation as we go. For those of you who are watching live, if you can just hang on for a moment and I'll send the webinar link in the chat. Also, if anyone has any final questions or wants to ask Jamie any additional questions while she's still here, please feel free to throw those questions in the chat as well. And for those of you who are watching the recording, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next month.